first phase is, frankly, quite unimpressive. But nevertheless, we shouldn't be too cynical because it at least represents
a phase, right?
We're in a phase, and he's out of his bad mood. We're not in a love fest, but in any case, we're heading in the right direction. So it is positive. The question is whether there is a phase 2 and a phase 3, or is this really a chimera? Is it never, never? And if it is, then the Trump administration will have fallen into exactly the same trap as the Obama administration, which is to get bogged down in these talks that never go anywhere, that at best end up with these incremental agreements. One of my colleagues, Tom Orlick from Bloomberg Economics, said, many trade deals between U.S. and China aren't worth the paper that they're written on. This one wasn't even written on paper. It was a handshake. And frankly, nobody knows what the handshake was all about.
And so I do wonder, Andy, and we talked to you about this a lot in part because you have such deep expertise and experience, candidly, personal experience there in China. As you talk to people over there, how is this playing in China?
The nightmare from the Chinese side is that this is overhyped, that the U.S. goes out and says this is an agreement, and then somehow China gets suckered into going along with this. And then we get to a point where Xi Jinping and Donald Trump are supposed to be signing this thing, and it all blows up. All right, that's the first thing. And the second thing that the Chinese worry about is that it is going to look as though Xi Jinping is signing this agreement, if indeed we get an agreement, with a gun against his head. It is vitally important from the Chinese side that Trump agrees not to impose these $150 billion tariffs on everything else that hasn't already been tariffed on December the 15th next year. And I think that unless we can get that, unless the Chinese can get that assurance, then there is going to be no signing ceremony. Xi Jinping does not want to go down as one of those sad officials like the Qing dynasty officials, who bowed to foreign pressure during the Opium Wars and signed unequal treaties. And they talk about that in the Chinese media a lot.
Andy, is there some kind of agreement that's non-incremental that can be done between the United States and China that allows both of them to have a dominant role in the 21st century?
You see, this is the heart of the issue, that the U.S. and Chinese economies for so many years were seen as being perfectly complementary. The United States spent, China saved. The United States consumed, China produced. The U.S. was high-tech, China was low-tech. China innovated, America invented. The problem now is that both of them are going for the same goal, right, which is technological supremacy in the 21st century. They are fundamentally at odds. And as Steve Bannon keeps saying, and there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser here. That's the way that this is being framed. That's, of course, what can give rise to, or what is giving rise already to this technology Cold War, and really could ignite a broad-based Cold War between the U.S. and China, which is why I'm not at all optimistic about a trade agreement.
Well, and just to follow, so then can they both coexist with that same goal and create some kind of trade agreement that works?
There is always going to be profound tension at the base of U.S.-China relations. The question is whether or not they can manage that tension in a way that doesn't get us back to the Cold War, doesn't split the global economy into two with a China bloc and a U.S. bloc, and the massive inefficiencies that would result, in a bifurcated technology ecosphere.
Right. Both lose in that regard.
For sure.
Yeah, no win-wins, it feels like, in the current political environment, geopolitically or domestically. Andy Brown, editorial director for Bloomberg New Economy, there in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Very thoughtful column, as always. He is a must-read if you want to understand not just the latest, right, but also the nuances of what's underneath that, the history, and some of the cultural significance that's going on here. All right, well, coming up, We are going to get into the world of economics with a local voice, one of my favorites, Steve Matthews. He's right alongside me here in the Atlanta Bureau. We love talking to him. And Carol, fair warning, I'm going to ask him about college football.
I know you are, but you got to also talk to him about the Fed because he knows it inside and out.
He knows that too.
And then coming up a little bit later on, someone on the ground there in Atlanta with us to talk about cybersecurity. You're listening to Bloomberg Radio.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want comedy, coming up, way better than the dad jokes in this house. Thrillers, they're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Or how about movies? I've got blockbusters. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto-renew, terms apply.
It's going to be a bit chilly today. And with the worst of winter yet to reach London, you don't want to wake up to a broken boiler. We're with you. So that's why with British Gas Home Care, we've got your boiler covered 365 days a year. We have thousands of engineers on hand to help get your boiler up and running again, and all from just 46p a day. Buy selected home care products online by the 28th of October and get 1 month free. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply. Prices vary by postcode.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Thrillers, they're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Or how about horrors? No problem. It's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto-renew, terms apply.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content.
It's called Indie.
Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroud.
And get alerted when the big game's about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which two teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
Capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading. We have got the Dow and the S&P both lower, little changed. NASDAQ also little changed. It is higher right now. Bottom line, light volume, stocks fluctuating as investors mull the implications of the partial trade deal reached last week between the United States and China. Priya Misra is head of global rates at TD Securities.
The critical issue in the U.S. is that business investment is weak because of uncertainty, and that might spill over into hiring, which then affects the consumer. I'm not sure there's enough in this deal. It did take the tail risk out, but do the December tariffs go into place? I think China is going to want a rollback of tariffs. I don't know if the U.S. is going to allow that.
Gold is up 0.2% right now, $14.91 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.4%, $53.37 the barrel. Holiday for the bond market, again recapping S&P 500 index lower by 1 point. Uber is laying off 350 employees from its food delivery, autonomous vehicles, safety, insurance, and other teams. The move is the latest in a string of staff reductions at the ride-hailing giant since its ill-fated initial public offering. time. Uber shares, they are trading higher right now, up by 3.4%. Lyft also advancing today. Lyft is up now by 1.1%. Tapestry, parent of the Coach and Kate Spade brands, has been downgraded to neutral from buy at UBS, as analyst Jay Sol believes, quote, challenging macro and industry dynamics will result in, quote, little upward EPS revision or PE expansion potential. Turns out more people are choosing to buy used handbags. Right now, Tapestry shares, they are lower by 3%. And Harley-Davidson shares, they are trading a little change right now, down 0.2% after the company halted production of Livewire. That's the debut electric bike it's counting on to attract new riders. The motorcycle maker says it recently discovered an issue during final quality checks. Again, recapping here, both the Dow and the S&P lower. Little change right now as we await bank earnings. NASDAQ up by 1 point. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
This is Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, well, we're going to do a special edition of Business Week Economics today. One of our stalwarts, of course, Kathleen Hayes, Global Economics and Policy Editor for Bloomberg. She's back in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. But sitting across from me, Carol Masser, live in the flesh, the man himself.
I'm so jealous.
Steve Matthews.
We're missing you. We're missing you, Carol.
Steve Matthews he's just the backbone of this bureau here. He's been with us for a long time, done a number of jobs, but most recently, and I guess for the past decade or more, Steve, you've been our economics guru in Atlanta. And I want to start, and then I want to get Kathleen's take on this as well. Let's start with the Nobel Prize. Bond market's closed. We don't have to worry about that. But this was a big deal. This Nobel Prize felt like a big deal.
This is a huge deal. Esther Duflo is only the second woman to win the Nobel Prize in economics. She's the youngest ever. And all of that is significant. And, most of the people in the world of economics are familiar with concerns about diversity in economics. There's a real lack of women, a lack of African Americans, and there are lots of barriers to success, which people like Diane Swank and the Wall Street area talk about. So here you have somebody who's a real role model, and also the other really significant thing is this is a new generation. Talk about is economics a science? Is it not a science? Esther Duflo is someone who used experiments in economics. So, if in really interesting ways, kind of looking at how do you address poverty, what works, what doesn't, and going to the ground and just kind of doing testing.
And I just love that this is, Steve, where the focus is and the emphasis. I mean, very appreciative of the work that they've done and the research, but I love that people are spending more and more time taking a look at this issue, especially since you think about, we talk so much about the gaps between those who are doing well and those who are not, and that certainly seems to have widened. And I just think it's good for us to spend a lot of time and attention focused on this.
Yeah, there's so much talk about income inequality, wealth inequality, and here's someone who's actually trying to do something about it, and in small ways making a difference. I mean, obviously, she doesn't solve and her partners have not solved the global poverty problem, but in incremental ways, they're making the world a slightly better place.
So, Kathleen, come on in here. What did you read into this selection and to Steve's really good point, sort of the type of work?
Well, I think it's all about the type of work, and it makes me think of the work that's been done in microfinance, how suddenly people who are actually dealing with poor people find out what they really need. For the longest time, I mean, think back to the development economics of the 70s and even going into the 80s, World Bank going in, we're going to build big bridges and things, and that's going to create jobs. And it didn't just always work out that way. So when you're fighting poverty in developing countries, that's one thing, and even in our own country. And I think it's obvious that people are realizing, gee, there's things we need to figure out, and these three together. It's interesting, in fact, that she's married to one of her fellow Nobel Prize winners. So that's really a strong partnership there. That they have done work. It isn't just, oh, it's nice, let's do something good for people. It's like, here's significant work that can help us figure this out. One more thing I'd like to say about women getting left behind in economics. My look at the Fed covering it over the years, to give the Fed a pat on the back, for a long time, there's been a lot of women who have risen, especially if you go inside the banks. If you're not looking necessarily at the bank presidents and governors, et cetera, women, I think, at the Federal Reserve have long had very important roles.
And so, Steve, we have you here in Atlanta. You are a keen observer of this region, and I am going to ask you about college football. But before I get to that, you have a very important Fed president right down the street, of course. What's the economic view here?
That's really interesting because Raphael Bostic, talking about diversity, is the first African-American Fed president in 100 years and is doing really interesting work and is talking about interesting issues about inequality, about workforce development. You know, if you look in this region, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, there are areas that are not doing well. The economy, in the view of the Fed, is in a good place, as Jerome Powell puts it. But there are lots of areas that are really not sharing in this amount of success, and that's something that's been a focus of Bostic's in the last year or two.
So you got to talk about football. I'm going to bring it up because I saw Steve Matthews, a picture that you've already tweeted about what you were doing over the weekend.
I was at the Clemson FSU game.
Clemson's your alma mater?
I'm a Clemson alma mater, but everybody in Georgia was obsessed with the Georgia-South Carolina game, with Georgia number 3 losing, and it was like...
Unranked South Carolina going to Athens, beating them in double overtime. It was the biggest storyline of the weekend.
Exactly. And in fact, this last week in Atlanta sports, people are saying, you know, it's the worst week in maybe many, many years. Georgia lost, Georgia Tech lost, the Atlanta Braves lost and were in an embarrassing fashion. The Falcons lost twice.
Yeah, for a sports town, it is a sad clown sports town. I'd sort of rocked up to a city that is licking its wounds for sure, Carol.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Kathleen, last word to you. Any questions for Mr. Matthews before we let him go?
Oh, well, first of all, kudos, because Steve, besides doing a lot of things at the Bureau, is just so top-notch on our eco team and his Federal Reserve coverage. So, Steve, quickly to you, have the odds shifted? If there is even we don't know if there's a hint of a trade deal, but is there? What is the chance that the Fed doesn't cut on October 30th? That's the word I want.
You know, the market odds are at 70% for a cut. However, Jerome Powell spoke last week in Denver and gave no reason. He said the economy's in a good place, but there are lots of risks. And he said nothing to push people off of the idea that there would be a cut. The minutes came out, they did nothing. So you have to feel like unless somebody pushes back, there's a high likelihood there will be one more cut.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Steve Matthews, economics reporter for Bloomberg here in our Atlanta bureau. Really, truly one of the stars of Bloomberg for a long time. And Kathleen Hayes, another star, a shooting star, a bright star, global economics and policy editor for Bloomberg. She's back in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Let's get to Bob Moon. He's got world and national. Hey, Bob.
Jason, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are in another closed-door hearing today related to the impeachment investigation against President Trump. Today, they're hearing from Fiona Hill, a former national security aide with expertise on Russia, who left the Trump administration right before the phone call between the president and his Ukrainian counterpart. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, meantime, recently said the whistleblower may not testify. But Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York said today all facets of the investigation should be transparent.
A whistleblower, by the way, should absolutely be here to testify in front of us.
Schiff said it might be necessary to protect the whistleblower from retaliation. President Trump could slap tough new economic sanctions on Turkey as soon as today, even as the country argues before the UN Security Council that its military offensive into northeast Syria is an exercise of its right to self-defense under the UN Charter. It's labeling Syrian Kurds terrorists. The Kurds lost more than 10,000 troops fighting alongside U.S. forces battling Islamic State. Wisconsin is moving its calendar ahead from 1492 to 2019. Democratic Governor Tony Evers signed an executive order to make the second Monday in October Indigenous Peoples Day. He's downplaying the connection to what the day has previously represented.
I'm here to recognize Indigenous people and all they've done for the state of Wisconsin. Recognizing them does no disservice to anybody else.
The move has drawn criticism from Milwaukee leaders. Alderman Bob Donovan says erasing Columbus Day is not the best way to honor Indigenous people. Global News 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. I'm Bob Moon.
Europe. It's going through some remarkable financial and political changes.
They've had constructive talks overnight.
We know because we report on them.
You've been conducting this peer review of UK building societies. Historically, the Fed rate cut cycles between pre-Euro, post-Euro.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
You want this to pose the question with three options.
Weekdays at 1 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
You know your body, and you know when something's off, when something doesn't feel quite right. Don't ignore symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, rashes, and fever. They could be signs of lupus. Listen to your body. Take care of yourself. We're here to help you take control of your health. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg is to succeed in small business, you need technology that runs efficiently. When you partner with a Dell Small Business Technology Advisor, you get advice, one-on-one partnership, and tailored productivity solutions, including computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and accessories. It's how they help your small business make the most of every minute. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Deep left center field, a grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
Air, left field and deep. He's at the wall!
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live. Regular season matchups and rivalry games. Conference championships and bowl games. The College Football Playoff.
Good throw. He steps up. He's going deep down the right side. Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free.
The end zone. Touchdown.
At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
Make sure to follow TuneIn today, so you're always in the know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search @TuneIn.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca, the Daily Sports Update. NFL action lives right here on TuneIn. Today, Monday Night Football, 8:15. We got the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers.
They do a really good job of putting you in one-on-one situations. It's inevitable. It's going to happen in this game where guys are going to be forced into one-on-one matchups, and we've got to do a great job and win those one-on-ones.
You want to catch this game? Search NFL. Favorite Detroit Lions or Green Bay Packers. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today.
Markets and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA-SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Stocks are fluctuating, lower, little change. That just about covers it, but let's head right over to the First Word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks quiet right now with the bond market closed on the day. Dow's currently down 24 points, S&P's dropped 2, and NASDAQ is little changed. Gold is higher by 3, small caps down 4 points, but just 2 of the main 11 S&P sectors are in the green, with gains in the financials and consumer discretionary. Utilities, materials, and consumer staples led to the downside. Nasdaq Biotech's gained 15, transports dropped 36 points. Semis are little changed, and the VIX is down by 3.6%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, 3M, Nike, and Goldman Sachs, while Cisco and UNH led to the downside. In other news, Harley-Davidson has halted production of their electric motorcycle. Tesla gained as much as 4.3%, traded back above the 200-day moving average, and Nike traded to a record. In deal news, Apollo said to offer about $40 per share for Hilton Grand Vacations. And wrapping things up, the banks kick off earnings season tomorrow morning. Live from the First Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
All right, thank you very much, Bill. We've got you covered on those banks bright and early tomorrow morning, and to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg type squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. I'm Carol Masser in our New York studio, Jason Kelly in our Atlanta bureau, and we are Bloomberg Radio.
So, Carol, as we know, when we drill down into the key industries here in Atlanta, security is certainly one of them, and specifically cybersecurity, security writ large. And there's a rich history of that here in Atlanta. And part of that history at the moment, part of that fabric, is a company called Avertium. It is run by Jeff Schmidt. He is the CEO. He's here with me in our Atlanta bureau. Jeff, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. So give us a sense of what you do and sort of in the context of what folks need to know about security writ large right now.
Avertium is a managed security services company. And so what that means for the listeners that are out there, similar to ADT, how they protect your home, we are protecting the networks and systems and applications for the mid to large enterprise. And then we offer professional services or consulting services that deal with things like compliance. So HIPAA, PCI, CCPA, which is the California Privacy Act that's out there today, and really bringing a pragmatic approach for our customers to simplify security and making it digestible.
Jeff, what's changed over the last couple of years? Because I feel like we've been talking about cybersecurity for some time now, but what's changed in terms of really getting it under control and the managing of it?
Carol, that's a great question. The security landscape has a lot of silver bullets that keep getting promised, so I think that question is really appropriate. With Avertium, and our approach is really taking a different view, if you will, on the market and the industry. And so first of all, helping our customers understand their risk and what they need to protect. That's number one. Two is understanding their budgets. Then three is what type of compliance that they need to make certain that they're actually putting in place for the companies that their customers that they have today. So if you're in retail, which is one of the number one industries we work with today, PCI is a big deal, the payment card industry. And what they would be looking for is security controls that protect that credit card information, personal identifiable information, and putting that into a pragmatic approach of making sure that outsiders can't get in, get information, third parties can't create a hole inside the environment that maybe somebody can get into. I think giving them a way to measure the controls that they put in place to know whether their security is good, needs to be better, or is bad.
So, Jeff, give us a sense of the marketplace right now. You've done a number of startups. You've worked for some big companies as well, including BT. Are we going to see some consolidation? Are we seeing more venture money come in? Where are we in that sense?
The mid to large enterprise is an interesting space, and that's where we're focused on. So think companies that are somewhere around $100 million to $3 billion in revenue that are worried about the proliferation of threats, have a hard time maintaining or having a large staff of security capable individuals. They may have a small team, but not enough to be able to do 7x24 monitoring. Then obviously budgets. And so for us, that's where our focus is. And when you look at that market space, that's where we think that there's a huge gap in the market. And frankly, it's also a place where cybersecurity thieves are focused on because it's an easy place for them to go after, because a lot of companies lack that capability.
Well, and I do still wonder, if there's, I know there's so much going on, obviously, in the commercial and private sector, but I do wonder about the role of government in terms of cybersecurity, Jeff. I mean, is their role, has it been defined well? Are they doing what they need to do in terms of standards and oversight, or do you think you don't want them too much involved?
It's a great thing to ask. So, when you look at things like CCPA, which is California Privacy Act, and then you take GDPR in Europe, right? So GDPR plays very nicely across Europe. In the U.S., if every state adopts a privacy act or some type of controls around cybersecurity and protecting our data, 50 states with 50 different sets of rules are going to add additional complexity. It's almost, and you think a large company can probably deal with this. The small, the medium, or the large, kind of that large area of enterprises are going to struggle with it, much like the financial institutions, the large B of A's, JPMCs dealt very easily with Dodd-Frank, but it was the community banks, the credit unions that struggled with it. So again, Avertium playing in this marketplace is trying to help take a framework that works across all of those standards and apply that to the environment. And again, risk in any business is pretty simple, is what are the crown jewels that you don't want stolen? What would happen if that got out inside the public? And could it kill my business if my customers knew that their information got out?
All right, so only about 30 seconds left, Jeff, but this is quite a vibrant scene in Atlanta for your type of business. Why?
Atlanta has a lot to offer. So if you look at ATDC at Georgia Tech, great place, incubating cybersecurity, but it has rich roots with companies like ISS, sold to IBM, Damballa, which dealt very early with botnets, Pindrop Security, which is dealing with, it's kind of the opposite side of what we do. It's the phone side and the voice side of security. there's a lot being incubated. There's a rich talent pool also to draw from here in Atlanta.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Great to have you with us, Jeff Schmidt, CEO of Avertium here in our Atlanta bureau. Coming up, Carol, we're going to get to the close of trading with one of our favorites,
Dan Morgan. I hear he's in the house already.
He is in the house. He's excited to be here. We're excited to catch up with him, be on his home turf.
All right, we're going to catch up on some research out from our Bloomberg Intelligence team. It all has to do with the auto parts group and what they might be on track for. So we'll get into that in just a moment. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. We're in Atlanta. We're in New York. We're everywhere. This is Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Stocks are modestly lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrials are down 20 points, less than 0.1%. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 are both down 3. Demand for Apple's latest iPhones has been higher than expected. Analysts say there are two forces at work. Apple has lowered prices at a time when prior models of its smartphone are aging. Walmart, Target, CVS, and Walgreens are among the chains that could be hurt by an Amazon policy that makes it easier for Prime customers to order items that cost less than $5. Recode says Amazon has essentially done away with its add-on program, making free delivery available on low-priced items usually picked up in stores. Boeing directors are ratcheting up the pressure on CEO Dennis Muhlenberg. The company's 737 MAX jets have been grounded for 7 months now. Directors have removed Muhlenberg from the chairman's post so he can focus on getting the jets back in service. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg Radio.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
History is watching. How will today's leaders shape this century's destiny? We live in an age of transformation. Commerce is shifting from sea lanes to fiber optic cables. Street markets have migrated to the cloud. Tomorrow's machines may be more intelligent than humans. This November, a community of leaders will gather in Beijing at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum to address the forces upending the global economy, seek solutions to our most pressing challenges, and chart the path to a new economy. Visit neweconomyforum.com.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and V Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying it today.
Live from the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with the Daily Sports Update. Sam Darnold beat mononucleosis, and the New York Jets defeated the losing bug, unfazed by a 3-game layoff. Darnold played one of the best games of his young career and sparked the Jets to their first win, 24-22 over the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday at MetLife Stadium.
For a win and come out here and do it in the fashion that we did. Defense getting a huge stop on the 2-point conversion. Wouldn't want it any other way.
More football action. It's continuing this Thursday. Yeah, we got Thursday Night Football. Search NFL and favorite your team.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know what matters most.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a A digital audio file made available on the internet typically is a series of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
So coming up, we've got our chart of the day with Dave Wilson, but also, Jason, some research from our Bloomberg Intelligence team. It has to do with the auto parts group.
Right, and fitting because I'm in Atlanta. Genuine auto parts, genuine parts based here, of course. So timely, as always, hat tip Paul Brennan. Let's get to Charlie Pellet. He's got an update on the trade, 29 minutes left.
And I thank you very much, Jason Kelly. Lower across the board. Want to begin, though, with a developing story out of Southwest Airlines. Southwest pilots say they see the 737 MAX resuming flights likely in February. Southwest shares pushing higher by 0.3% right now. As for Boeing, the maker of the 737 MAX, its shares remain lower today, down by 0.5%. Boeing, of course, member of the Dow. Dow slumping 28 points, little change, down 0.1%. 28 minutes to go ahead of the close. Light volume with the S&P down 3 now, down 0.2, and NASDAQ down 3 points. That's a drop of less than 0.1%. A lot of investors also awaiting tomorrow morning's bank earnings reports. Bond market closed on this Monday here, the Columbus Day holiday for a lot of people. Gold up 0.2% right now, $14.92 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.4%, $53.40 a barrel. Stocks turning lower in the last hour of trading as investors mull the implications of that partial trade deal reached last week between the U.S. and China. George Magnus is with Oxford University's China Center.
Of course, it's about trade, but it's also underneath, as I think everybody understands nowadays, not least in Washington and Beijing. This is really about industrial policy, procurement, technology transfer, intellectual property, and ultimately about standards and beliefs and values, which is why I think this dispute has basically dug really, really deep roots. It's just not going to go away.
Recapping, stocks lower, S&P down 3 now, a drop of 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
So say goodbye, it's Independence Day.
All right, Independence Day, Bruce Springsteen singing about it, Dave Wilson talking about it back in New York. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, it's all about independence on the corporate front, Late last week, IAC Interactive Corp., Barry Diller's company, filed this document about a proposal to spin off what's left of its stake in Match Group. We're talking about Match.com, Tinder, and some other online dating sites. They still have an 81% stake in the company. So, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar transaction, which got me thinking, well, how are spinoffs doing? I mean, is it a good time to consider this kind of a separation? And so to make that judgment, I took a look at the S&P U.S. Spinoff Index, and what it does, it tracks companies that have been separated within the last 4 years and have billion-dollar-plus market values. And when you take a look at that particular index, well, it's had sort of a rough go. It peaked in January of last year, around the same time the S&P 500 itself did. and then fell 29% through last December and has yet to recoup the loss. So it's basically down about 20% or so. And it's still in a bear market, arguably, at a time when stocks have managed to push higher. And we've seen records in the S&P 500 as recently as July. So it's not like this particular strategy of going into companies once they have been separated, like Match Group presumably will be, if that plan ultimately comes to fruition. It's not like it's been the greatest approach. So, the backdrop is really not working in their favor. And if you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
Good stuff, Dave. Thank you so much. And we've got some more good stuff from our own Kevin Tynan, Senior Autos Analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, taking a look at the auto parts group. He joins us on the phone from BI headquarters in Princeton, New Jersey. And we were talking about one of the big auto parts companies, Genuine Parts, based in Atlanta. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about your research.
Yeah, we decided to look at it, and the retail aftermarket auto parts segment is a little bit unloved, right? When you think about automakers and suppliers, you think of the big names. I think when you think of retail, you think of the big names or the online names. And to me, especially, this is an interesting group because really it's a different customer, And we sort of break the base into two separate segments. One is the do-it-yourselfer, and the other is the do-it-for-me, which would be your commercial place, your corner shops, a couple of service bays, a couple of lifts in there working on cars all day. But me going to an AutoZone or a Genuine Parts, a Napa store, is a very different customer than my wife going to a Macy's kind of thing. You want to get your stuff, get the parts you need, get back to the garage, and finish up what you're doing. So if you look at this group of companies, and in there we'd put AutoZone and Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly's, and Genuine Parts, even in the past trailing 12 months, the stocks have really shot up in some of the cases. And if you look from the end of the recession in 2009, it's been astronomical.
And so, Kevin, what does this market tell us vis-a-vis the larger sort of auto market? How do they track together, or do they?
Well, it's interesting, and what we put in our piece was that it's almost counter-cyclical, and when I think about it like this, it's almost like there's no bad time to be an aftermarket auto parts supplier. There may be less good times, but if you think about it, and what we had put in there, if you look at the period of new vehicle sales from 2015, 16, and 17, largest new vehicle volume for any 3-year period, over 50 million new vehicles coming into the fleet. Now, over time, the vehicles that are aged 6 years older and up are the most that have the most intense repair and maintenance needs. So if you look at it as a retailer, you say, well, there's people really kind of replacing rather than repairing at this point. But 6 years down the road, you have this really needy fleet of vehicles that are in that sweet spot of repair and maintenance, and that's what we're heading towards.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for the context. As always, Kevin Tynan, Senior Autos Analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence, our in-house research arm. He joined us on the phone from BI headquarters down in Princeton, New Jersey. Well, Carol, I've got eyes on him. Dan Morgan, he's here in Atlanta. We've got him in his native habitat. He's going to give us a preview of Netflix and IBM, talk about what's going on in the markets. We're so excited.
Yeah, we are excited, especially, here we are just getting into earnings. So I am curious to see what he's expecting, Dan is expecting for the space that he follows and what it might tell us about the business environment and the market environment as well. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar, Jason Kelly. Time for a check on world and national news headlines with Bob Moon.
Carol, President Trump is marching toward a signing ceremony with his Chinese counterpart on a deal that's not really finalized. No matter, that's apparently considered a mere formality, even if Beijing is signaling more talks are needed. Here's Bloomberg's Herb Chapman.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin at the White House offered his take on what's going on.
We have an agreement in principle. This is like when you buy a building, you've reached an agreement to buy a building, and now you got to negotiate the contract. But this document is substantially done, and if we need to have more in-person meetings to get this done, obviously we'll do that.
Mnuchin said he will meet with the top Chinese negotiator at the Asia-Pacific Summit next month in Chile for a last-minute check before the two presidents meet there to sign the deal. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
President Trump says the U.S. is ready to go with more sanctions on Turkey to counter its destabilizing incursion into Syria. The administration is defending Trump's troop pullback. His defense secretary says it was a deliberate move to keep U.S. forces out of harm's way. We want a divorce, but we can still be friends. That was the message from Britain's Queen Elizabeth today, with just 2 weeks to go to find an amicable separation agreement with the European Union.
My government intends to work towards a new partnership with the European Union based on free trade and friendly cooperation.
The spectacle of the Queen's speech, complete with horse-drawn coaches and lords in scarlet robes, at least provided a diversion from the long Brexit grind, but there is still no deal in sight, with Prime Minister Boris Johnson adamant that his country will leave at the end of the month, with or without a deal. Global news 24 hours a day, on air, and at TikTok on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
After graduating from NJIT, Maria Kuzan joined pharmaceutical giant Merck & Company. As a chemical engineer, she's part of Merck's Global Engineering Solutions and leads worldwide communications for the Merck Women's Network. She also helps the company recruit new talent from top universities like NJIT.
I think NJIT graduates, they really come in and hit the ground running, right? They know how to problem solve. They've been prepared for it. They know how to work individually as well as in teams. They have that kind of flexibility to work both ways, and that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for someone that is able to do both, is able to do the individual work, but also work across teams and communicate effectively. And I think NJIT is definitely helping us with providing some of that key talent pool, and having that leadership capability is invaluable.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at storiesofinnovation.njit.edu.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's environment of market volatility, Pershing's Prime Services is well positioned to support the needs of hedge funds and other alternative investment managers. Whether it's customized financing or securities lending solutions, platform access, or business expansion, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and agile enough to meet your evolving demands. Pershing helps to solve the needs of clients by advocating for them, providing unwavering strength, deep supply, and award-winning service that is at the core of everything we do. Find out what sets Pershing's prime brokerage team apart.
Learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers offered by BNY Mellon's Pershing. Visit our website at Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch. A dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Otto Sergey now checks for better energy deals so you don't have to. Meaning we can all sit back and relax. Can't we, Sergey? Sergey?
Hey? What?
Tell the people that we can sit back and relax.
Oh, we can sit back and relax.
Oh, don't waste energy worrying about energy. Automate it with Otto Sergey. Compare the market. Keep life simple.
Customer preferences determine alerts based on tariff type, payment type, supplier rating, and minimum annual saving of £50.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
The throw, he steps up, he's going deep down the right side. Andrews.
You can listen to it all for free.
The end zone, touchdown.
At home, on campus, or on the road, hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca, the Daily Sports Update. NFL lives on TuneIn, and behind a large containment of fans chanting, "Let's go Niners," at the LA Memorial Coliseum on Sunday, the San Francisco 49ers defeated the Los Angeles Rams 20-7, delivering the Rams their third consecutive loss of the season. And for the 49ers, well, they're 5-0. More NFL is continuing on TuneIn. This Thursday, we've got your home and away calls. You want to find the games? Search NFL.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the close. Light volume, but U.S. stocks have turned lower in the final 30 minutes of trading as investors think about the implications of the partial trade deal reached last week between the U.S. and China. Right now, the S&P is down 29.66. That's a drop of 0.1%. The Dow down 32 points, lower now by 0.1%, and NASDAQ is down 6, a drop of 0.1%. Bond market close this Monday. We've got gold up 0.2%, $14.92 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.2%, $53.47 a barrel. Brent $59.20, lower by 2.2%. Again, recapping here, equities lower, light volume, S&P down 4, down 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no.
Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the driving.
Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the drive to the close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Carol. Well, I head down to Atlanta, and lucky for me, get to link up with a guy that is one of our constant go-tos, especially when it comes to the world of technology. He's here with us for today's Drive to the Close. That's Dan Morgan, Vice President, Senior Portfolio Manager at Synovus Trust Company. They're looking after about $24.2 billion just up the road from us here in Atlanta, but he's here with me in our Atlanta bureau. Dan, what a treat. Great to see you.
This is great.
It's been a long time since we've seen each other face to face, but not so long since we last talked. And it's a perfect time to talk to you because we're about to hear from some of the big tech names. Let's talk a little Netflix.
Yeah, so Jason and Carol, we've got Wednesday coming out with the two leading companies, Netflix and IBM. And the consensus on Netflix is 7 million subscribers. They came a little bit short on the second quarter, 6.2 million international, 800,000 domestically. But, Jason and Carol, when you think about what's in the back of everybody's minds is we know that Apple has got their release of their new service, their $4.99 streaming service. It's going to come out in November. And Disney with the Hulu and the $6.99 service also coming out in November. So we look at this quarter, this third quarter that's closing down, and it's kind of like, okay, well, that's interesting, but you've got a lot of things coming down the pipe here the next couple of weeks, so watch out.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like this whole space is getting really, really crowded. And I know just in our own household, it's like, all right, we're just going to kind of limit this and whittle it down to what we really think we're interested in. I don't have enough time to look at all this stuff. So I do wonder how you look at kind of the longer term outlook for the world of streaming.
Well, I think the key thing, Carol, is obviously how much money each of these streaming services is spending on new content, right? We've talked about this before. We've covered Netflix together. And I think we kind of came to the agreement that, yeah, it's great to have old reruns of Friends and Steinfeld and all these different old shows everybody likes to watch. But really what hooks people to stay on every month is this new content. And, you think about Netflix, obviously, 7.5 to 8 billion. That's their content spend rate. Really, the only one that's really close is Amazon. They're about 6 to 7 billion. And then you look at like a Disney with that monster library, right? The Star Wars, the Pixar, the Marvel, and all the things they're doing in movies and so forth. So I think when you got to look at streaming, you got to look at how much you're going to put into content, how are you going to keep people engaged, and continue to stay with you month to month. You just can't rerun, the old shows.
How soon before we start to get somebody who bundles all of these streaming services and we're kind of back to the cable model?
Well, that would be interesting, right? It's counter to what we just went through, right? It was break up the cable stations, right? And everyone streams what they like, ESPN, Disney, or whatever. And now you go the other direction where you get Apple, Disney, Amazon, right, as a bundle against Netflix. Right. Yeah, that would be interesting to see if somebody can package that together. We haven't seen that quite yet, though, Carol.
Well, speaking of getting together, putting things together, IBM, obviously that massive acquisition of Red Hat, Dan, how soon are we going to really get a sense of what this new look IBM looks like, especially as we prepare to hear from them, as you say, this week as well?
Well, you're right, Jason. So we got IBM coming out Wednesday with Netflix. IBM, as you said, it's kind of a wait and see stock, right? Yeah. Because you've got this huge acquisition that they've done. Everybody listened to the road show, so to speak, or afterwards talking about this hybrid cloud, which is kind of a combo of two things, so to speak. And is this going to pay off for IBM? And, you look at the real growth that everyone was focusing on before, their strategic imperatives. That's the artificial intelligence, security, social, all these different things that sound really sexy. And that's about 50% of their total revenues. If you go back and look at fiscal year 2018, it grew at about 9%. But now the new story is Red Hat, right? And how can they digest that thing and really make it work? And it could be exciting for them, Carol and Jason. If you think about the huge installation base of customers that IBM has and be able to sell those Red Hat products through that channel, it could work. But it's going to be a task for them, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Is it going to finally, though, change the fortunes, right? We've talked so often about when it comes to IBM, all these bets that they're making, but we talk about what's going on in revenues and, cost cutting has certainly been a big part of their story in terms of meeting some of their numbers. So is this it that kind of could be the turnaround?
This
IBM
is it,
ultimately?
Carol.
Yeah, this is it. And if they don't, so what if they don't? So what if it doesn't work out, Dan? Then what?
It's going to be really tough. This is one of the largest deals they've ever done. You guys have been around a while like myself. You probably remember WebSphere. You probably remember some of these companies that they gobbled up along the way, and we kind of forget about the names of these companies, a lot of software companies. But this is by far the biggest deal that they've done. So you're right, Carol. You look at even this quarter coming out, which is going to be their Q3 19, we're looking for revenues to be down again, 2.7%, roughly about 18.25 billion. So how do you get the growth catalyst back in this company? We think back in the late 80s when they went through that big downturn in the mainframe space with all the international competition, they somehow pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, became a huge service company, and then had that nice run. So you're right, Carol. Is this going to be that next big boost for IBM that we've been waiting for that seems to come along about every 20 years?
Well, and obviously it's going to be Ginny Rometty's legacy. It feels like it is really on the line here at IBM. So broadly speaking, Dan Morgan, tech, what's the feel as we go into earnings across the universe that you look at?
Well, it's interesting, Jason. I was just checking this as I was coming in to do the show, and you look at technology as a whole, as gauged by, let's say, the S&P 500 Information Technology Benchmark, up 31.59%. S&P's up 18. The Dow Jones is up 15%. So tech has still been the place to be, right? It's still doing really well despite tariffs and everything else. And if you go into this third quarter, I mean, you're still looking at kind of flat to slightly down consensus in terms of earnings. But there's still so many areas of excitement, like the cloud is an area that should do and has done extremely well in the past. We're starting to get a little bit of revival in the chip space, maybe a little ahead of ourselves, but that area too could be something dynamic. Carol, I'm sorry.
No, but I was just no. Forgive me because I'm breaking in. But I just want 30 seconds on what we're seeing in terms of the results and what we're hearing from companies, or at least what you're expecting. Nothing to you points to recession here in the United States or even globally.
I think the only connection I can make is terms of the tariffs and the direct impact on CIOs and CEOs' attitudes towards CapEx. Yeah. And is that going to eventually lead to a slowdown in spending, which then could hurt tech spending? So far, we haven't seen it. But at this point in time, I think we just have to keep chugging along through this third quarter with our heads high. But I'll try to signal to you and Jason when I see that green leaf coming up underneath the stone that I'm starting to see things slow down.
We're going to hold you to it.
Thank you.
Absolutely are. Dan Morgan, you are the man. Always great to catch up with you. Actually, I'm going to call an audible. You want to stick around, do movers and shakers with us? Let's do it. All right. Dan Morgan's going to be back with us after the close of trading, share some of his movers and shakers. Carol and I will as well. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. You're on Bloomberg Radio.
Should we go halves?
I'll get this. Let me just get my card, which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates. But if you temporarily misplace your debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types. T's and C's apply.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Today at 8:38 p.m. Eastern, we've got the St. Louis Cardinals at the Washington Nationals. Cards are down by 2 for this one. League Championship Series, Game 3.
Pitch to Eaton, breaking ball, pulled on the ground, fair! A fair ball past the diving first baseman and down the right field line.
You want to catch it? Search MLB, favorite St. Louis Cardinals, or the Washington Nationals. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving. Soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content.
It's called Indie.
Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroudy.
And get alerted when the big game's about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which 2 teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Losing day for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. Light volume, but red on the screen at the closing bell. This headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. President Trump says he will sanction Turkish officials and raise steel duties. Again, developing stories. Stay with Bloomberg. We will have the latest on this story. The Dow lower by 30 points at the close, down 0.1%. S&P 500 index fell 4, lower by 0.1%. NASDAQ down 8. That was a drop 2 of 0.1%. The bond market closed for the Columbus Day holiday. Dan Morgan is senior portfolio manager at Synovus Trust. Moments ago, right here on Bloomberg Business Week, he was asked about the connection between tariffs and the odds of a recession.
I think the only connection I can make is terms of the tariffs and the direct impact on CIOs and CEOs' attitudes towards CapEx. Yeah. And is that going to eventually lead to a slowdown in spending, which then could hurt tech spending? So far, we haven't seen it. But at this point in time, I think we just have to keep chugging along through this third quarter with our heads high.
And gold up today by 0.2%, $14.92 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.2%, $53.47 a barrel. Couple more details about Turkey and tariffs. The president saying that he will increase steel tariffs by up to 50% for Turkey. Again, developing story. Headlines now crossing the Bloomberg Professional Service. Tapestry, that's the parent of Coach and Kate Spade brands, downgraded to neutral from buy. At UBS, as analyst Jay Soul believes, quote, challenging macro and industry dynamics will result in little upward EPS revision or PE expansion potential. He says more people are choosing to buy used handbags. We've got shares of Tapestry down now by 2.8%. Uber laying off 350 employees from its food delivery, autonomous vehicles, safety, insurance, and other teams. Uber shares, they did move higher today, up by 3.3%. Again, recapping here, a move lower for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. S&P down 4, a drop of 0.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Move around. Motion creates the motion.
I feel the earth move under my feet.
You move like they do. I've never seen anyone move that fast.
Shake. Shake. All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Company's called Movers and Shakers. They cost a little more, but that name cracked me up.
Bloomberg Business Week, Movers and Shakers, with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, it is time to take a look at some of the movers and shakers on this Monday. Carol Masser in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio, along with my co-host Jason Kelly out there in our Atlanta bureau, along with Dan Morgan. He's still with us of Synovus Trust Company.
You like me calling that audible? That's good, right?
I did. I think it was terrific. S&P 500, let me just do the big snapshot here. 194 names in the index, higher today, 306 lower, 5 unchanged. I'm going to throw it out to you, Jason and Dan.
Well, I'm going to defer my time like we're in, the Senate or something to the gentleman from Buckhead, because I want him to talk about some of the names that he's looking at. Salesforce is one I'm really interested in. We talk about this name a lot. Dan, what do we need to know about it?
Well, Jason, it's interesting because Salesforce hasn't performed as well as, let's say, other tech stocks. They've been kind of flat, but they're still the leader in, if we break up the cloud space, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. They got about a third of that market, and they continue to be a dominant force. They're kind of growing at a rate of about 18 to 20% per year. So it's somewhat dynamic in the fact that it has such a dominant space in one aspect of the cloud. Kind of like Jason and Carol, we think about AWS, which is Amazon's Amazon Web Service, being the dominant player in the infrastructure as a service. So this is on the software as a service side.
It's funny. I'm looking at the ticker. Carol, Salesforce was literally flat today, almost like it knew that Dan was going to talk about it. And it's up about 9% for the year. So as you say, like a very middling performance in a year where the S&P's been off the chain.
Yeah, and I talked earlier, Jason, about the software technology index up 31% year to date. So, anything that's below that, single digits, is a failure, right?
Well, and, let me just throw into this conversation Oracle, which has had a good, more bullish move this year. It's up about 25%. But, Dan, we have in the magazine the most recent issue. It's a double issue that's on magazines, on newsstands right now. But it talks about Oracle, right? Keeps saying, we're going to go after you, Amazon. We're going to go after you, Amazon. We're going to go after you, Amazon.
We're coming for the cloud. Seriously, we're coming for the cloud.
And it hasn't happened. And now they seem to be dialing back. Talk to us about them and their position when it comes to the cloud.
Well, you're right, Carol. And they are competing. I mean, you think about human capital management. Carol, you remember the old J.D. Edwards PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft got acquired by Oracle, engaging more into the enterprise resource planning space, right? So we know they've got that in with that in terms of database. So they're obviously trying to move the enterprise resource planning space into the cloud. But they're still kind of single digits, right? And even in software as a service, where I talked about earlier in regards to Salesforce, they're also trying to get more engaged in that. And then, as you said, Carol, they keep talking about, hey, we want to be a player like Google and Microsoft and AWS in the infrastructure and service, but it just hasn't happened as quickly as I think they would like it to be. And they were kind of late to the game, Carol, while these other companies were kind of ahead of them, and now they're kind of playing catch up. They're trying to do acquisitions. They're trying to do other things to get there.
If I can follow, though, and I'm curious because I feel like, Dan, that Microsoft was kind of a little bit late, too. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your world and you know it so well, but I feel like they caught up pretty quickly.
Some of their old mature operating systems and things that we're more accustomed to with Microsoft. So I would have to say that at this point in time, Carol, if we had a two-horse race between Oracle and Microsoft, being the old line tech software companies, right? Microsoft operating system, Oracle and database, we have to say that right now Microsoft is definitely ahead in making that transition over Oracle.
All right. That was the most fun movers and checkers we've done in a while. I mean, Carol, I know you and I, we love each other. We love hearing talk, but I really like hearing Dan Morgan and all his wisdom. Great to have him with us. Vice President, Senior Portfolio Manager for Synovus, here with me in Atlanta. Let's check on the VIX, down about 5.6%, closing at 14.71.
All right, Dave, you're up. Hi, my name is Dave.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson!
Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
We're going for a price on Wilson.
Open up the door, it's Dave. Who? Dave.
Hey, Mr. Wilson. Let's get to Dave Wilson's stock of the day. Dave, what do you got?
AMC Networks, Carol. This is the cable channel owner. They have their namesake network along with BBC America, IFC, Sundance TV, and WeTV. Now, they also produce movies and TV shows. They offer streaming video, and they even own comedy clubs. AMC Networks has been independent since a spinoff in 2010. The ticker is AMCX. Now, the shares peaked in August 2015, just after the finale of its advertising agency drama, Mad Men. Since then, weakness in the cable industry has left its mark. AMC Network's U.S. advertising revenue peaked in 2016 and has dropped every year since then. International expansion and moves into streaming have kept the business growing, but that's no longer enough for Evercore ISI. The firm cut AMC Networks to the equivalent of sell from hold. It's the first time they've recommended selling the stock in 6.5 years. Analyst David Joyce cited an acceleration of cord cutting among TV viewers and also the possibility that a cable or satellite TV service might drop its channels. Now, Joyce's call sent AMC Networks down as much as 5% to their lowest price in about 7 years. The stock closed with a loss of 2.4%.
I feel like there's a theme here. We were just talking with Dan and just talking about Netflix and just the streaming wars that are going on. And you do wonder about traditional content, Dave, what their position will be going forward.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to streaming with all the competition coming up. How does AMC cut through when it's Disney and it's Netflix and everybody else?
All right, Dave Wilson, thank you so much with his stock of the day. Back to world and national news with Bob Moon.
Carol, thank you. She was just 28 years old. Tatiana Jefferson was at home in Fort Worth, Texas, playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew. The family says the two of them had stayed up late until early Saturday morning playing video games and lost track of time when they heard noise outside the bedroom window. They had made the fatal mistake, it turned out, of leaving the front door open. A neighbor called a non-emergency line to report it, and body cam footage shows the white officer who responded did not identify himself as police, but fired a shot through the window just seconds after demanding Jefferson show him her hands. An innocent young woman is dead, her nephew traumatized, her loved ones devastated. And the officer?
My intent was to meet with him today to terminate his employment with the Fort Worth Police Department. However, the officer tendered his resignation this morning before we met.
Police Chief Ed Krause says the officer violated the department's use of force, de-escalation, and unprofessional conduct policies. Family attorney Lee Merritt wonders why he hasn't been arrested.
Why this man is not in handcuffs right now is a source of continued agitation for this family and for this community.
Fort Worth Mayor Betsy Price says there is no excuse for what happened.